The massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark cloud. Commander Marcus Chen stood alone in the transfer shuttle, watching as it carried him toward the Xerixian mothership. His mission was simple but dangerous. Talk to the aliens and try to stop a war before it started. Stay calm, he whispered to himself. Remember your training. The shuttle docked with a metallic clang. When the doors opened, Marcus got his first real look at the Xerixians. They were tall, blue-skinned, creatures with hard shell-like armor covering parts of their bodies. Each one stood at least 7 feet tall, with females slightly larger than males. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light of the hangar. 4 guards surrounded Marcus. They carried energy weapons and looked at him with what seemed like disgust. None of them spoke as they marched him through long corridors of metal and strange glowing materials. The ship was huge inside. Marcus tried to memorize the route, noting the number of crew members he saw and the types of technology visible. Everything about the Xerixians showed they were more advanced than humans. Their weapons, their ship design, even their armor seemed to pulse with energy. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber with a raised platform at its center. About 20 Xerixian officers stood around the edges, all wearing different colored armor that probably showed their rank. At the center stood the tallest of them all, a female with deep blue skin and black armor decorated with glowing symbols. Supreme. Warlord Kavora, one of the guards announced, pushing Marcus forward. Kavora looked down at Marcus. Her mouth parts clicked together in what might have been amusement or disgust. "This is Earth's representative?" she asked, her voice surprisingly smooth despite coming from such an alien mouth. "A single small male?" "Commander Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady. "I'm here to discuss peaceful relations between our peoples." Kavora circled around him, studying him like he was an interesting bug. The other Xerixians watched silently. "Your species sends an unarmed male to negotiate?" she finally said with a sound like rough laughter. "Humans truly are meant to be slaves." Marcus kept his face neutral despite the insult. Earth had only learned about the Xerixians 3 months ago, when their scout ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. All they knew was that these aliens had conquered 17 other worlds. The United Earth government had sent Marcus hoping to establish peace. "We come seeking friendship," Marcus said. "Earth wishes to trade knowledge and resources, not fight." Kavora stopped directly in front of him. She towered over him by at least 2 feet. "The Xerixian Empire does not make friends," she said coldly. "We offer protection to lesser species in exchange for service. Your planet has 2 choices: join willingly as a protected world, or be conquered." Marcus took a deep breath. "With respect, Supreme Warlord, Earth chooses neither. We propose an alliance of equals instead." The chamber went silent. Then Kavora let out a roar that made Marcus's ears hurt. Without warning, she struck him across the face with the back of her hand. The blow was powerful enough to knock him down and draw blood from his lip. "Equals?" she hissed. "Your bones break like twigs. Your ships would burn like paper against our weapons. Your world has barely mastered simple space travel while we have ruled the stars for centuries." Marcus slowly stood up, wiping blood from his mouth. He noticed several of the Xerixian officers watching him with interest. Perhaps surprised he could still stand. "Strength comes in many forms," he said quietly. "Humanity is young compared to your empire, but we learn quickly." Kavora's yellow eyes narrowed. "You have courage, human. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless." She turned to address the other officers. "Earth will have 3 days to reconsider their response. If they do not accept our protection, we will demonstrate our power by destroying one of their cities." Marcus felt cold fear run through him, but kept his face calm. "My people will not change their minds. We can be friends or enemies. The choice is yours." Kavora made a sharp gesture, and the guards moved forward to grab Marcus's arms. "Take him to the holding quarters," she ordered. "Perhaps hunger and isolation will teach him proper respect." As the guards led him away, one of the Xerixian officers, slightly smaller than the others with lighter blue skin, stepped close enough to whisper something only Marcus could hear. "The Supreme Warlord plans to use you as an example in combat. the officer said quickly. To show all Xerixians how weak humans are, be prepared. Before Marcus could respond, the officer stepped back and another guard pushed him forward. In his simple holding room, Marcus sat on the edge of a strange bed that seemed designed for a much larger body. His face throbbed where Kavora had struck him. He touched the spot gently, feeling the swelling. What the Xerixians didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that Marcus was no ordinary human diplomat. Under his skin, special technology and genetic modifications lay hidden. Earth had been preparing for alien contact for decades, developing secret programs to enhance selected soldiers. The Chimera program had created 50 super soldiers who appeared completely normal on scans but possessed strength and speed far beyond human limits. Marcus looked at his reflection in the metal wall. The bruise on his face was already healing faster than normal. He glanced around the room and noticed a small camera-like device in the corner. They were watching him. Good, he thought. Let them think he was weak and afraid. He had been chosen for this mission because he was the best at controlling his abilities, at hiding what he really was. His diplomatic credentials were real. He had trained for years in international relations before being recruited for the Chimera program. Marcus closed his eyes and focused on his heartbeat, slowing it down using meditation techniques. He would need all his strength for what was coming. If the Xerixian officer was right, Kavora planned to make an example of him in combat. Instead of showing Earth's weakness, it would be the perfect opportunity to demonstrate why the Xerixians should reconsider their plans for conquest. First contact, Marcus whispered to himself with a small smile. Never goes quite as expected, does it? Outside his room, the Xerixian ship continued its silent orbit around Earth, its weapons systems ready, waiting for the order to attack a planet that was far more dangerous than they realized. Night passed slowly in Marcus's holding room aboard the Xerixian ship. The lights dimmed but never fully turned off. The air was slightly too cold and had a strange smell that made his nose itch. After checking carefully for hidden cameras, Marcus touched a spot behind his ear, pressing down 3 times in a specific pattern. A small device hidden under his skin activated. It projected a tiny hologram only he could see, displaying a secure connection to Earth Defense Headquarters. General Amara Singh's serious face appeared. "Report, Commander," she said in a low voice that only Marcus could hear through bone conduction. "Diplomatic approach failed as expected," Marcus whispered. "They view us as primitives. The Supreme Warlord, Kavora, has given Earth 3 days to accept protected status or face attack." "Physical assessment?" the general asked. "They're stronger, faster, and more durable than we thought," Marcus replied. "Average height over 7 feet, exoskeleton covering vital areas. But they're extremely arrogant. One of their officers warned me that Kavora plans to use me in combat to show how weak humans are." General Singh's expression hardened. "This may work to our advantage. Are you ready to implement Phase 2? Marcus nodded. "Yes, General. My enhancements are still undetected. Their scanners registered me as a normal human." "Good. The fleet is moving into position behind Neptune. If diplomacy fails, we'll be ready." She looked directly at him. "Remember your training, Commander. You don't need to win a war. You just need to plant enough doubt about human weakness to force them to reconsider." "Understood." The hologram disappeared as Marcus heard footsteps approaching his room. He quickly returned to his bed and pretended to be resting. The door slid open, and a Xerixian guard entered with a small container. "Food," the guard said simply, placing the container on a table. He looked at Marcus with obvious contempt. "Eat. The Supreme Warlord wants you strong enough to stand tomorrow." After the guard left, Marcus examined the food. It looked like colored paste in different sections. He carefully tasted each one. Some were bitter, others sweet or salty, but none seemed harmful to humans. He ate enough to maintain his strength. While eating, he removed a false tooth and crushed it between his fingers. Inside was a tiny capsule containing nanomachines programmed to enhance his already modified musculature. Marcus swallowed it with the alien food. Within minutes, he could feel the nanomachines spreading through his body, reinforcing his bones, optimizing his reflexes, and heightening his senses. He would need every advantage for what was coming. In another part of the ship, Supreme Warlord Kavora studied holographic displays showing human physiology. Next to her stood Lieutenant Zexar, the officer with lighter blue skin who had warned Marcus. Their muscle density is approximately half of ours, Kavora noted with satisfaction. Bone strength significantly lower. Reaction time slower. No natural armor. She closed the display with a wave of her hand. They are weak, as I suspected. Yet they advanced from primitive technology to space travel in only 3 centuries, Zexar pointed out carefully. No other species we've encountered has adapted so quickly. Kavora turned her glowing yellow eyes to her lieutenant. Are you suggesting these humans could be a threat, Zexar? Zexar lowered his gaze respectfully. I suggest only that adaptability itself is a kind of strength, Supreme Warlord. Perhaps we should study them further before dismissing them. Their adaptability is meaningless without physical power to support it, Kavora said dismissively. Tomorrow, I will demonstrate to all Xerixians and to Earth through their representative why we are the apex species of this galaxy. Zexar bowed and left, his doubts unresolved. In his private quarters, he reviewed Earth's history again. Something about humans worried him. Their rapid development, their survival despite countless wars among themselves, their creativity in solving problems. Most concerning was how quickly they had responded to the Xerixian arrival, sending a diplomat instead of panicking as most species did. Morning came, announced only by a change in the lighting of Marcus's room. 2 guards entered without warning. It is time, one said. The Supreme Warlord has arranged a demonstration of Xerixian superiority. You will participate. Marcus stood calmly. What kind of demonstration? Combat, the guard replied with what sounded like pleasure. Supreme Warlord Kavora will show all Xerixians how easily even the strongest human can be defeated. Marcus allowed himself to be led through the ship. His enhanced hearing picked up conversations among the crew they passed. Word of the coming demonstration had spread throughout the ship. Many Xerixians were eager to see their leader crush the human diplomat. They arrived at a large circular room with a raised platform in the center. Hundreds of Xerixians filled the surrounding area, their voices creating a constant buzzing sound. Marcus was brought to the edge of the platform. Kavora entered from the opposite side, now wearing ceremonial battle armor that made her look even larger and more intimidating. The crowd cheered as she raised her arms. Fellow warriors of the Xerixian Empire, she called out, her voice magnified. Today we demonstrate why our species rules the stars. Today we show why humans, like all other lesser beings, must accept their proper place under our protection. Marcus stood straight, taking deep breaths to activate the nanomachines throughout his body. He felt his muscles tightening, his senses sharpening. To the watching aliens, he appeared calm but ordinary, just a human preparing to face inevitable defeat. Kavora pointed at Marcus. This representative of Earth refuses to acknowledge Xerixian supremacy. He claims humans are our equals. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I will prove otherwise. She stepped onto the platform and approached Marcus. The difference in their size was striking. She towered over him, her armored body nearly twice as wide as his. You may select a weapon, human, Kavora said, gesturing to a rack of strange-looking devices. It will make no difference, but I grant this courtesy. Marcus looked at the weapons, then back at Kavora. No weapons, he said calmly. But I have a question before we begin. Kavora seemed amused. Ask, human, your last words should be recorded for history. Have you ever fought a human before? Marcus asked. The Supreme Warlord laughed, the sound like grinding metal. Why would any Xerixian waste time fighting a slave species? Marcus smiled slightly. Then today will be educational for us both. Glowing energy field activated around the platform, creating a combat arena 30 feet in diameter. The crowd fell silent as Kavora took a fighting stance, her clawed hands ready to strike. Begin, shouted an official voice. Kavora moved with surprising speed for her size, lunging forward with her right hand aimed at Marcus's throat. Every Xerixian expected the fight to end in seconds. They were right, but not in the way they thought it would. Kavora's clawed hand slashed through the air where Marcus's throat had been a split second earlier. The crowd of Xerixians gasped as the human moved with unexpected speed, sliding to the side with a fluid motion that seemed impossible for such a primitive species. "Stand still and face your defeat with honor," Kavora growled, spinning around for another attack. Marcus remained silent, his face calm as he dodged a second strike, then a third. His enhanced senses allowed him to see Kavora's movements almost in slow motion. The nanomachines in his system were working perfectly, adjusting his reflexes and muscle responses in real time. The Supreme Warlord grew frustrated as her attacks met only empty air. 10 seconds into the fight, and she hadn't even touched the human. The watching Xerixians began to murmur in confusion. "Fight back, coward," Kavora demanded, launching a powerful kick aimed at Marcus's chest. Marcus caught her foot with both hands, absorbing the impact. For a moment their eyes met, hers filled with shock, his with quiet confidence. Then he released her foot and stepped back, resuming his defensive stance. "Is this some human trick?" Kavora hissed, circling him cautiously now. "Why do you not attack?" "I'm studying you," Marcus replied simply. "Learning how you move, how your armor works, where your weak points are." Kavora roared in anger and charged forward, unleashing a flurry of strikes with both hands and feet. Marcus continued to dodge and block, using minimal movement, conserving his energy. 20 seconds had passed, and the crowd had fallen completely silent, watching in disbelief as their supreme warlord failed to subdue what should have been easy prey. During this time, Marcus's enhanced vision was analyzing Kavora's exoskeleton. He noticed small gaps at the joints, especially between her neck and shoulder, where the armor had to allow for movement. He also observed how she favored her right side and left small openings when executing certain attacks. "Enough games," Kavora shouted, pulling a small device from her armor. It extended into a short energy staff that hummed with power. "Let's see you dodge this, human." The weapon sliced through the air with a crackling sound. Marcus ducked under it by millimeters, feeling the heat as it passed over his head. He knew it was time to stop defending. Exactly 30 seconds after the fight began, Marcus counterattacked. His first move targeted the weak joint he had identified at Kavora's neck and shoulder. His hand struck with pinpoint accuracy and shocking force, hitting a nerve cluster beneath the armor. Kavora's right arm went limp immediately. "What?" she gasped, but had no time to finish. Marcus moved with blinding speed, landing 3 more, precise strikes at different points on her armor, each one targeting a specific nerve cluster his enhanced vision could detect beneath the protective plating. The Xerixian leader staggered backward, her face showing confusion and pain. "Impossible," she whispered, as Marcus's elbow connected with a neural node in her abdomen, temporarily paralyzing her left side. The arena remained absolutely silent as the supposedly inferior humans systematically dismantled their Supreme Warlord's defenses. Each of Marcus's movements was calculated and devastating, the result of genetic enhancement combined with combat training specifically designed to take down larger, stronger opponents. Kavora tried to swing her energy staff again, but Marcus caught her arm and applied pressure to another nerve point. The weapon clattered to the floor. In the same motion, he swept her legs out from under her, using the Xerixian's own weight and center of gravity against her. With a heavy crash that echoed through the silent arena, the Supreme Warlord fell onto her back. Before she could move, Marcus pinned her with a precision hold that applied pressure to her primary breathing passages near the base of her throat. "Yield," he said quietly. The combat clock on the wall stopped at exactly 30 seconds. Kavora lay defeated, her exoskeleton cracked in several places, dark blue fluid leaking from the breaks. For several long moments, no one in the arena moved or spoke. Then Marcus did something that confused the Xerixians even more than his victory. He helped Kavora to her feet. The Supreme Warlord swayed slightly, her yellow eyes fixed on Marcus with a mix of anger, pain, and something new, respect. "How?" she demanded, her voice weaker than before. "Our scans showed you were an ordinary human." "There's no such thing as an ordinary human," Marcus replied. "Each of us is unique. Some of us are stronger than we look." The silence in the arena was broken by Lieutenant Zexar, who stepped forward and raised his voice. "The combat is concluded. The Supreme Warlord requires medical attention." Several medical officers rushed forward to assist Kavora. As they led her away, she looked back at Marcus. "This is not over, human." "I hope not," Marcus answered, "because now we can begin real negotiations." Guards surrounded Marcus and escorted him back to his quarters. As they walked, he noticed how differently they treated him now, with caution and a new wariness in their eyes. Word of the combat would spread quickly throughout the ship, and soon to the entire Xerixian Empire. In his room, Marcus sat down and took several deep breaths. The nanomachines had pushed his body to its limits. He needed rest to recover. But his mission had been successful. He had planted the seed of doubt about human weakness and created an opportunity for actual diplomacy. Using his hidden communicator, Marcus contacted Earth. "Phase 2 complete," he reported. "Combat. Demonstration successful. The Xerixians now have reason to question their assumptions about us." General Singh's holographic face appeared. "Excellent work, Commander. Our sensors detected increased activity on the Xerixian ship. They appear to be running new scans of Earth. The fleet remains in position behind Neptune, but the situation has changed. Kavora won't give up easily," Marcus warned. "Her pride is wounded. That makes her dangerous." "All the more reason to press our advantage," the general replied. "The Xerixians respect strength. You've shown them we have it. Now we need to show them we're smart enough to use it wisely." As the communication ended, Marcus heard footsteps approaching his room again. This time, it wasn't guards but Lieutenant Zexar who entered. "The Supreme Warlord has called an emergency meeting of the High Command," Zexar said without greeting. "Your combat performance has changed certain calculations." Marcus stood. "I'm glad to hear that." "Don't be," Zexar replied grimly. "Some now see humans as a greater threat than before. There are those who believe we should strike immediately, before Earth can reveal more surprises." "That would be a mistake," Marcus said. "What you saw today was just one human. Imagine a planet full of us, each with different skills and strengths. We don't want war, Lieutenant, but we're ready for it if necessary." Zexar studied him carefully. "I believe you. The question is whether the Supreme Warlord will listen to reason or to her wounded pride." Marcus smiled slightly. "Either way, the next 24 hours should be very interesting." The Xerixian High Command chamber buzzed with angry voices. 12 commanders in different colored armor stood around a large circular table, while medical officers worked on Kavora's injuries nearby. Holographic displays showed images of Earth, the human fleet positions, and replays of the combat between Kavora and Marcus. "This changes nothing," shouted Commander Drax, slamming his fist on the table. "One enhanced human does not make their species our equals. We should attack immediately." "We don't know how many enhanced humans they have," argued Lieutenant Zexar. "Our scans failed to detect anything unusual about the Earth representative. What else might we be missing?" Kavora raised her hand, silencing the room. The medical team had repaired the worst damage to her exoskeleton, but she still moved stiffly, dark patches visible where Marcus had struck precisely. "We will not act rashly," she said, her voice strong despite her injuries. "The human revealed capabilities we did not anticipate. This requires recalculation." She gestured to the chief science officer, who stepped forward nervously. "Our analysis of the combat footage shows that the human moved with speed and precision, beyond normal human capabilities," the science officer explained. "However, we detected no mechanical enhancements or external power sources. By all measures, he appears to be biological, but somehow enhanced." "Could all humans be like this?" asked another commander. The science officer shook his head. "Unlikely. But if they can hide such enhancements from our scanners, we must assume they have more soldiers with similar abilities. Kavora stood slowly, wincing slightly. I underestimated this human. I will not make that mistake again. Prepare a new scan of Earth focused on detecting hidden military installations and unusual energy signatures, and bring the human to me. I would speak with him, properly this time. In his quarters, Marcus was meditating to help his body recover when the door opened. 4 guards entered, keeping a careful distance. The Supreme Warlord requests your presence, one said, his tone more respectful than before. Marcus nodded and followed them without resistance. As they walked through the ship, he noticed more Zerixians stopping to watch him pass. Word of his victory had spread quickly. Some looked afraid, others curious, and a few seemed angry. This time, Marcus was brought to a smaller meeting room rather than the grand chamber. Kavora sat at a table with only Lieutenant Zexar beside her. The guards were dismissed, leaving just the 3 of them. Sit, Kavora said, gesturing to a chair across from her. It was a human-sized chair, Marcus noted. Someone had gone to the trouble of finding appropriate furniture. Thank you, Marcus said as he sat down. How are your injuries? Kavora's yellow eyes narrowed. Do not pretend concern, human. You struck to disable, not to kill. That was a calculated move. Marcus nodded. I came here to talk, not to start a war. Yet you concealed your true abilities, Kavora said accusingly. You allowed us to believe humans were physically inferior. And you assumed we were weak without proper investigation, Marcus countered. That was your mistake, not my deception. Zexar made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Kavora shot him a dangerous look before turning back to Marcus. Our scans show unusual activity in Earth's outer solar system, she said. Ships hiding behind your planet Neptune. Were you planning an ambush, Commander Chen? Marcus smiled slightly. Insurance, not ambush. We hoped for peaceful contact but prepared for the alternative. How many more like you exist on Earth? Kavora asked directly. Enough, Marcus replied. But enhanced soldiers are just one of humanity's strengths. We adapt. Quickly. We learn from our mistakes. And we work together despite our differences. Kavora leaned forward. You humiliated me in front of my warriors. That wasn't my intention, Marcus said honestly. I respected your combat skills. You're an impressive fighter. But I needed to demonstrate that humans aren't the slaves you thought we were. Something changed in Kavora's expression, a slight softening of her fierce features. Your technique was unexpected. Where did you learn to target Zerixian nerve clusters? We've never shared such knowledge with other species. I didn't know they were nerve clusters, Marcus explained. My enhancements allow me to see heat, patterns, and energy flows. I targeted the points where your body's energy seemed concentrated. Zexar exchanged a glance with Kavora. Adaptive tactical analysis during combat, he said with what sounded like admiration. Most species require extensive study to identify such weaknesses. Kavora stood and walked to a window overlooking Earth. The blue planet looked peaceful from orbit. My duty is to expand and protect the Zerixian Empire, she said after a long silence. For centuries, we have incorporated lesser species under our protection. Some resist at first, but all eventually accept their place. Humans are different, Marcus said, joining her at the window. We don't want to fight you, but we won't accept servitude. Instead, we offer alliance, partnership. Both our species can benefit from working together rather than against each other. Kavora turned to face him. And if we refuse? If we choose to attack despite your demonstration? Then we will defend ourselves, Marcus said simply. With every resource and innovation we can muster. And based on our history, when humans are threatened, we become very creative. The Supreme Warlord studied his face for several seconds. Interesting. Most species beg for mercy or make desperate threats. You simply state facts. Because I want you to make your decision with complete information, Marcus replied. War between us would be costly for both sides. Peace would be profitable for both sides. The logical choice seems clear. Kavora made a clicking sound that might have been amusement. You speak like a Xerixian human, logic and strength, these we respect. She returned to her seat. I will consult with the High Command. You will remain aboard our ship while we consider Earth's proposal. Marcus bowed slightly. Thank you for listening, Supreme Warlord. As guards escorted Marcus back to his quarters, Lieutenant Zexar walked beside him. You've accomplished something no other species has managed in 3 centuries, Zexar said quietly. You've made the Supreme Warlord question her assumptions. Is that good or bad for my chances of survival? Marcus asked with a small smile. That depends on what she decides, Zexar replied. But know this. Many Xerixians are watching this situation with great interest. Not all of us believe conquest is the only path forward for our empire. Back in his room, Marcus activated his hidden communicator. Update for Earth Command. Negotiations have begun. Kavora is considering our proposal for alliance instead of conquest. General Singh's holographic face looked relieved. Excellent work, Commander. Our fleet reports the Xerixians have powered down their main weapons. It seems your 30 seconds of combat may have prevented a war. Don't celebrate yet, Marcus cautioned. Kavora's pride is still wounded, and there are hardliners who want to attack regardless of the risks. Then we must be ready for either outcome, the general replied. Peace or war, the next few hours will decide. Kavora stood alone in her private chamber, watching Earth rotate slowly below the ship. The blue planet seemed peaceful from this distance, but she now knew better than to underestimate its inhabitants. Her body still ached where the human had struck her with such precision. A soft chime announced a visitor. Enter, she commanded. Commander Drax, her most loyal officer and the strongest voice for immediate attack, stepped into the room and bowed. Supreme Warlord, the High Command awaits your decision. Our weapons are ready. The human fleet behind their outer planet remains in position but has not advanced. Kavora continued staring at Earth. Tell me, Drax, in all your years of conquest, have you ever encountered a species that defeated you in personal combat? Never, Drax replied firmly. The Xerixian form is superior to all others. That is what I believed as well, Kavora said quietly. Yet this human moved faster than I could track. He identified weaknesses in my exoskeleton that took our scientists years to discover. With minimal effort, he rendered me helpless in 30 seconds. Drax shifted uncomfortably. One enhanced specimen does not represent an entire species. Their planet is still vulnerable. Kavora turned to face him. Is it? Our new scans show energy readings we cannot explain. Their technology is different from ours but advancing rapidly. And if they can hide enhancements in their soldiers that our scanners cannot detect, what else might they be hiding? So you would have the mighty Xerixian Empire retreat? Drax challenged, his voice rising. Because of one combat loss? Kavora moved with sudden speed, grabbing Drax by the throat and lifting him off the floor. Despite her injuries, her strength remained impressive. Watch your tone, Commander, she warned, her yellow eyes flashing. I did not become Supreme Warlord by being reckless. The human spoke of alliance instead of conquest. In 17 systems, no species has ever made such an offer. They have always begged for mercy or fought until defeated. She released Drax, who staggered back, touching his throat. Bring the human to the High Command chamber, Kavora ordered. I have made my decision. Marcus was reviewing Earth's defense plans on his hidden communicator when guards arrived to escort him. This time there were 6 of them, all heavily armed. The Supreme Warlord requires your presence, the lead guard announced. The High Command has assembled. Marcus nodded, deactivating his communicator. I'm ready. They led him through the ship, to the grand chamber he had first seen upon arrival. Now it was filled with more Xerixians than before, at least 50 officers in various colored armor. They watched him with mixed expressions as he entered. Kavora sat on a raised platform. At the center, her armor repaired but still showing marks from their combat, Lieutenant Zexar stood to her right, while a larger Xerixian Marcus recognized as Commander Drax stood to her left looking angry. Commander Marcus Chen of Earth, Kavora announced formally. You stand before the high command of the Zerixian Empire. We have considered your words and your demonstration. Marcus stood straight, keeping his expression neutral. Thank you for the opportunity, Supreme Warlord. Kavora rose from her seat. For 3 centuries, the Zerixian Empire has expanded through the stars, bringing lesser species under our protection. Never in that time have we encountered a species that offered us alliance as equals, until now. Murmurs spread through the gathered officers. Drax's face darkened with anger. Humans are young compared to us, Kavora continued. Your technology is different, sometimes primitive, sometimes surprisingly advanced. But you have shown qualities we respect: strength, courage, and adaptability. She stepped down from the platform to stand directly in front of Marcus. I have decided that Earth will not be conquered or forced into protected status. Relief flooded through Marcus, but he kept his face calm. I'm pleased to hear that, Supreme Warlord. Instead, Kavora said, her voice carrying to all corners of the chamber, I propose a trial alliance between our peoples. For 1 Earth year, we will exchange knowledge, technology, and culture. At the end of that time, we will determine if a permanent alliance is beneficial. Drax stepped forward. Supreme Warlord, I must object. This goes against centuries of Zerixian tradition. Traditions evolve, Commander, Kavora replied sharply. As must we, if the Empire is to continue to thrive. She turned back to Marcus. Does this proposal satisfy Earth's requirements? Marcus nodded. It is a reasonable starting point. I will need to communicate with my government for official approval, but I believe they will agree. Kavora made a gesture, and Lieutenant Zexar approached with a small device. This will allow direct communication with your leaders. We will await their response. As Marcus accepted the device, Kavora lowered her voice so only he could hear. Your combat skills were impressive, human. Perhaps during our alliance you might share some of your techniques with our warriors. I would be honored, Marcus replied, and perhaps your scientists could teach us about your advanced propulsion systems. Kavora's mouth parts moved in what might have been a smile. A fair exchange. This is how alliances work, yes? Each side contributes value. Exactly, Marcus agreed. Using the Zerixian communication device, Marcus contacted Earth. General Singh's face appeared on the screen, visible to both him and Kavora. Commander Chen, the general said formally. We receive your transmission. What is the Zerixian decision? Marcus explained the proposal for a trial alliance. The general listened carefully, then nodded. The United Earth government accepts these terms, she said. We will begin preparations for cultural and technological exchange immediately. Kavora stepped into view of the communication device. General Singh of Earth, I am Supreme Warlord Kavora. Your representative has fought with honor and spoken with wisdom. The Zerixian Empire looks forward to learning more about humanity. After the communication ended, Kavora addressed the High Command. Prepare the ship for extended orbit around Earth. Contact the fleet and inform them of our new status with this world. Most of the officers accepted the orders without question, but Marcus noticed Drax and several others leaving the chamber with angry expressions. Lieutenant Zexar noticed as well. Not all will embrace this change easily, Zexar said quietly. Commander Drax has spent his entire life conquering other worlds. The idea of alliance is foreign to him. Change is difficult for humans too, Marcus admitted. But it's necessary for growth. Kavora rejoined them. Your 30 seconds of combat may have changed the course of 2 civilizations, Commander Chen. I am curious to see where this new path leads. Marcus smiled. So am I, Supreme Warlord, so am I. 6 months had passed since the historic agreement between Earth and the Zerixian Empire. The massive alien mothership now orbited Earth peacefully, alongside 5 newly built space stations where humans and Zerixians worked together. Smaller Zerixian vessels regularly traveled between Earth and their home systems, carrying diplomats, scientists, and cultural exchange teams. Marcus stood at the observation deck of the largest station, named Unity, watching shuttles come and go. He wore a new uniform that combined Earth Defense Force design with elements of Zerixian style, a symbol of his role as chief liaison between the two species. "Admiring your handiwork, Commander?" Lieutenant Zexar asked as he joined Marcus at the window. The Xerixian officer had been appointed as his counterpart in the exchange program. "Still amazed it worked," Marcus admitted. 6 months ago, we were on the brink of war. And now we learn from each other," Zexar said. "Our engineers are studying your adaptive AI systems, while your scientists examine our propulsion technology. Both sides benefit." Marcus nodded. "How are the cultural exchanges going?" "Better than expected," Zexar replied. "Your Earth music confuses many Xerixians at first, but some have developed a fondness for it, and several human diplomats have begun learning our combat dances." Their conversation was interrupted by a station-wide announcement. "Attention all. Personnel. Supreme Warlord Kavora's shuttle is approaching. Designated representatives, please report to Docking Bay 3. "That's us," Marcus said. "Let's not keep her waiting." They made their way through the station, which buzzed with activity. Humans and Xerixians worked side by side, still sometimes awkward around each other but making progress. Marcus noticed how the humans no longer stared nervously at the towering aliens, while the Xerixians had learned to modulate their naturally loud voices around their smaller allies. At the docking bay, a formal reception line had formed. Earth representatives stood on one side, Xerixians on the other. Marcus took his place at the center where the two lines met. The shuttle doors opened, and Supreme Warlord Kavora emerged. She still wore her impressive battle armor, but it now included a small Earth emblem alongside the Xerixian imperial symbol, another gesture of the growing alliance. "Commander Chen," she greeted Marcus formally, placing her fist against her chest in the Xerixian salute. "The station looks impressive." "Supreme Warlord," Marcus returned the salute, then extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting, which Kavora carefully took. "Welcome to Unity Station." As they walked through the station for an official tour, Kavora spoke quietly. "Not all news is positive, Commander. There is discontent among some Xerixian factions." "Commander Drax?" Marcus guessed. Kavora nodded. "He and several officers have returned to our home system. They speak against our alliance, claiming I have weakened the Empire by treating with lesser beings." "We faced similar resistance on Earth," Marcus admitted. "Some humans fear Xerixian technology or believe this is all a trick before conquest. Yet here we are." Kavora gestured to a laboratory they were passing, where human and Xerixian scientists worked together on a new type of energy shield. Building. Something new. Their tour ended at a conference room where the day's official meetings would take place. Before entering, Kavora stopped Marcus with a gentle touch on his arm. "There is something I must ask you, Commander," she said, her voice unusually hesitant. "The day we fought, you could have killed me, couldn't you?" Marcus looked into her yellow eyes. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "Because the goal wasn't to kill you," Marcus explained. "It was to change your mind. Death ends possibilities. Life creates them." Kavora made the clicking sound that Marcus now recognized as thoughtful consideration. A wise philosophy, different from traditional Xerixian thinking, yet compelling. They entered the conference room. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. "Security breach in Docking Bay 7, announced the station's AI. "Unauthorized weapons discharge detected." Kavora and Marcus exchanged alarmed glances before rushing toward the emergency. Security teams, mixed groups of humans and Xerixians, were already heading in the same direction. When they reached the docking bay, they found chaos. A small Xerixian shuttle had forced its way into the station. Standing at its ramp was Commander Drax, along with 10 heavily armed Xerixian warriors. "Supreme Warlord," Drax called out when he saw Kavora. "I have come to save you from this human deception and restore the true path of the Empire." Kavora stepped forward. "There is no deception here, Drax. Stand down immediately." "The Kavora I served would never ally with inferior beings," Drax growled. These humans have poisoned your mind. He raised his weapon. If you will not lead the Empire properly, others will. As Drax prepared to fire, Marcus moved with enhanced speed, pushing Kavora aside and rolling to safety behind a cargo container. The energy blast scorched the wall where they had been standing. Still hiding behind your pet human? Drax taunted. This alliance has made you weak. Kavora stood tall, her armor gleaming under the emergency lights. No, Drax, it has made us stronger in ways you cannot understand. She turned to Marcus. Together? Marcus nodded, and they moved as one, a perfectly coordinated attack that demonstrated their months of training together. Kavora engaged Drax directly while Marcus dealt with the other warriors, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to disarm 2 Xerixians before they could even react. The security teams joined the fight, and soon Drax's forces were surrounded. Seeing his plan failing, Drax made a desperate lunge at Kavora, but she was ready. Using a technique Marcus had taught her, a human martial arts move adapted for Xerixian physiology, she flipped Drax over her shoulder and pinned him to the ground. "It's over, Commander," she said firmly. Later, after Drax and his followers had been secured, Kavora and Marcus stood again at the observation window. Earth rotated peacefully below them. "There will be others like Drax," Kavora said, "on both sides. Those who fear change, who cling to old ways of thinking." "True," Marcus agreed. "Alliance is harder than conquest or submission. It requires constant work, compromise, understanding. But the rewards are greater." Kavora turned to look at him. "6 months ago, you defeated me in combat in 30 seconds. Today, we fought side by side. When I called humans slaves, I never imagined this outcome." Marcus smiled. "The best victories aren't the ones that end in defeat, but the ones that end in friendship." Kavora made a sound that Marcus now recognized as Xerixian laughter. "You humans and your sayings. Perhaps that should be inscribed at the entrance of our next joint station." As they looked out at the stars, Marcus thought about how much had changed because of one combat demonstration. A 30-second fight that had altered the destiny of 2 species. "What do you think we'll accomplish in 30 years? He asked. Kavora's yellow eyes gleamed with something new. Hope. Something greater than either of us could achieve alone. That is the true strength of alliance. Beyond the station, the vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, filled with new possibilities for both humans and Xerixians as they moved forward together, no longer conqueror and slave, but partners in exploration and growth. The end.